Assalamu alaikum. I hope everyone is doing good. I mean, there is still pandemic around the world, but I guess slowly everything is starting to get normal. So today I would like to discuss about a chapter of the Quran, a very important, one of the important chapters of the Quran, Surah Yusuf. I recently finished reading Surah Yusuf. So I would like to discuss 5 lessons that we can learn, that I have learned from Surah Yusuf. I would love to share it with all of you in here. And yeah, if this goes good, inshallah, it will turn into a series, hopefully. Okay, so before I start the lessons, I would like to go through a little bit of context, the tafsir, background of when this surah, this chapter from the Quran was revealed, and what was the environment during that period, what the Prophet, where the Prophet was, and how everything was, and yeah, and a little bit about the surah, and then I will start discussing the lesson. Okay, so Surah Yusuf, or in English known as Joseph. This surah is considered like the story of Yusuf alayhi salam is considered one of the best stories of all time because he's one of the prophet. So yeah, so it's one of the best stories. So it's an uplifting Meccan surah which was revealed along with the 2 previous surahs at a critical time in the life of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So our Prophet was going through a very critical time when Surah Yusuf was revealed. So there were 2 critical things that happened. It was during the year of Amm al-Hasan, the year of grief, when the Prophet's wife Khadija radiallahu anha had died and his uncle Abu Talib passed away. So it was that year, shortly after a 3-year boycott by the Meccan pagans to suppress the believers. So it was revealed during that kind of time. This is the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, whose half-brothers were driven by jealousy. So this is a little bit of context summary of what the surah is about. So we know that Yusuf alayhi salam, Prophet Yusuf, was he had half-brothers. He had step-brothers, right? And we know how the step-brothers were jealous of him because according to them, their father cared more about Yusuf other than them, right? So it also discusses that inside the surah. And yeah, so this is the story whose stepbrothers were driven by jealousy, conspiring to distance him from his father Jacob, Yaqub alayhi salam. So we know that Yusuf alayhi salam was thrown in the well by his brothers who conspire against him, because Yusuf alayhi salam, we know in the beginning of the surah, like as I've read, like he had a dream that the sun and the moon, then all the planets are bowing down. And when he told this to his father said, it's a good dream, but don't tell your brothers, because his father was a prophet during that time, and he knew that his brothers were prone to jealousy and they were gonna try to do something, try to harm Yusuf alayhi salam. So Yaqub alayhi salam told him not to mention the story to the brothers, and the brothers, we know later, like they conspired and they took Yusuf alayhi salam with them. Although Yaqub alayhi salam, like his intuition told him that this was not gonna be good, but they told Yaqub alayhi salam that they're gonna take good care of Yusuf alayhi salam. And then they took them with them, and then they went to a field, and then they made up a story. They threw Yusuf alayhi salam in the well, and they slaughtered a deer and took its blood, and that's what the story is about in the Quran. Like, use the blood and spread the blood on the shirt of Prophet Yusuf, and then they took the shirt with them and they made up a fake story and went to their father and started crying and showed the shirt to their father and said some animal came and have eaten their beloved son and their beloved brother Yusuf. So Yaqub alayhi salam knew right away that there is something suspicious about the story, that there is a flop. It's a flop and it's not true. So we know that in the ayah there's a dua that the Prophet Yaqub did when he heard about this tragic news that Yusuf alayhi salam was dead and he was missing. He knew that deep down, because he's a prophet, he had ghaibi knowledge, which means knowledge of the unseen. So he knew right away that there is something wrong. And we know this dua that Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam did. He asked Allah to give him patience from whatever their stepsons, like the brother of the Yusufs alayhi salam, were plotting against. So okay, so then what happened is he was sold into slavery in Egypt, falsely accused and imprisoned for several years, only to become Egypt's chief minister. Just like Yusuf alayhi salam, the Prophet had to leave away from his hometown and was faced with false allegations and abused by his own people, but ultimately became Arabia's undisputed leader. So just like Yusuf alayhi salam, Prophet had some similar event happening. And when Prophet triumphed over Mecca after many years of persecution, to be treated the very people who abused him with grace, recalling the words of Yusuf alayhi salam when his brothers begged for mercy in verse 92, "There is no blame on you today. May Allah forgive you. He is the most merciful of merciful." You see, what we can learn from the one of the lessons we can learn from story of Yusuf alayhi salam is he was forgiving. Although his brother did such a damage to him, he still forgave them. And that's how the prophets were. The prophets never took revenge. They forgave the people that have wronged them, right? And they went through really hardship trials. Like, their trials were 10 times, 100 times more harder than the trial of other people, like harder than us. Whatever we're going through, the prophets went through like triple, 10 times more of that. So like, we can even compare what the prophets went through. But if anyone is going through trials and tribulation, that means they're following the footsteps of the prophet, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if Allah said that if Allah loves a believer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts that believer through trials and tribulation to make them ready for a certain level of Jannah. If we do some hadith studies, we know that. Okay, so this was basically a summary, like context of Surah Yusuf in brief. And I've read this from the Clear Quran right here. So I'm gonna now get back to the lessons. So the 5 lessons that I'm gonna talk about, it's very brief. So I'm not gonna take too much of anyone's time. I'm just gonna briefly go through the 5 lessons from Surah Yusuf. So Surah Yusuf is the 12th chapter of the Quran, and there is 111 ayah in Surah Yusuf, and it talks about the life and biography of Surah Yusuf. It's the only surah that continuously talks about one prophet, the entire surah. It's so amazing. Other surahs, like there is speech about different prophets and different tribes and different society, but in this surah is specifically dedicated to the life of Yusuf alayhi salam. That's one of the most interesting thing I found in Surah Yusuf. Anyways, so the first lesson number 1 from Surah Yusuf is the closest of people can deceive you. Yeah, so that's the first lesson. You see, Yusuf alayhi salam, his own brother conspired against him and threw him to the well. So from here we can understand that even your own family members can deceive you. Like, there is no guarantee just because someone is blood related to you, they can't backstab you or go behind your back and do something wrong. So we can get this lesson that even your own family can go against you. It's natural, it can happen. So that's the first lesson. We get it. We get from Surah Yusuf. But still, that did not change the demeanor, the good characteristics of Prophet Yusuf. Although they betrayed him, although they deceived him, he did not do the same. He did not return them the same behavior. He was kind and forgiving. At the end, when the brothers came back to him and apologized, and they bowed to him because they needed forgiveness, he forgave them, and he didn't blame them for anything that happened in the past. Another thing we can learn from his life, that he did not hold on to what happened in the past. He did not have any grudge against his own family members. Okay, the second lesson is broken heart can be restored through love. So in here we see a beautiful love between Yaqub alayhi salam and Yusuf alayhi salam. Yaqub alayhi salam, the father, Yusuf alayhi salam, the son. Yaqub alayhi salam had a broken heart because his beloved son was taken away from him. He was so heartbroken that he cried holding the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam, so much so that he became blind. We know from the story, right? So we see that at the end, the love was restored when he met Yusuf alayhi salam later, when he became one of the minister of Egypt. So that love was restored when they reunited, when the father and son reunited, when the two prophets reunited, their love was restored. So, which is a lesson for us believers, that even if you're heartbroken, even if someone left you, obviously, like, it has to be a legitimate love, something that's within the sharia, within like something that's halal, of course, right? So even if someone leaves you that you love, your loved one, and that doesn't mean your life is over. At some point in your life, you will get reunited with your loved one. But if they leave this world, like if they pass away, then obviously we have the hereafter, right? So you'll be reunited in the hereafter. So we should have more hope in Allah's plan. We should have more trust and hope in Allah's plan. Okay, so the third lesson is ease comes after hardship. So this is something we even find in other chapters of the Quran. For example, in Surah Ashara, we find that verily after hardship comes ease. That ayah is so common in Surah Ashara, which is a comforting verse for the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comforting the Prophet, and through the Prophet is comforting all of us. We are the believers, right? So if we're going through a certain difficulty, distress, or hardship, we need to have more patience, that this time will pass and good times will come. Yeah, we need to have more faith in Allah. فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Verily with hardship comes ease. It's one of my favorite ayah of the Quran. Yeah. So that's the third lesson. The fourth lesson is being sad doesn't equal being ungrateful. So I have a whole video made regarding sadness. I'm gonna link it in here in the side. So I don't wanna go elaborate in details about it because I already have made a huge video on this during October. It was like last year. So yeah, that's the fourth lesson. So if you want to see details, you can refer back to that video that I made. It was kind of raw, but still it talks about why we need to embrace the emotions of sadness, etc., etc. Okay, so the fifth lesson is, yeah, as I said earlier, those who decide to have trust in Allah's plan, they always win. Those who decide to trust Allah's plan will win. So you and I, we have one responsibility. After we do everything, even when we're doing something, we should realize that it's all because of the mercy of Allah. It's all within the plan. We are all doing things because this was planned for our life. So we need to have more trust and faith in whatever Allah decides for us. I was discussing this earlier, right? And it's one of the lessons from Surah Yusuf. Like, Yusuf alayhi salam trusted Allah's plan, and look where Allah took him. From well to slavery to jail to being the most highly elite minister of Egypt. So if you are patient, if you trust Allah's plan, and if you keep on doing the right thing, Allah will elevate you if you are a genuinely good person. So we should have more faith and trust in Allah's plan. And I can see that in real life, you know, good people, maybe they go through a lot of pain, a lot of betrayal, but at the end of the day, because they're good people, because they're genuine people, at the end they always win. It's a promise from Allah. And we see it as an example from the life of Prophet Yusuf in the Quran. So it's a lesson for all of us. Okay, and the sixth is, and the last lesson that we can learn from Surah Yusuf is, people with patience have a beautiful ending. Yeah. So those people who are patient, they always have a beautiful ending. That's why, you know, in another surah it's mentioned, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Have a beautiful patience. So patience doesn't mean that you cannot feel pain. Patience means that you do not question the decision of the Almighty. Like, you know and you accept the fact that you're going through a hard time. And you don't lose hope. Yeah, you don't lose hope. You don't despair from the mercy of Allah. You keep on trying, you keep on praying, you keep on having faith. That's how we are supposed to stay patient. Impatience means questioning our life, questioning why we are going through this. What did I to deserve this? There's some people, when they're going through trials and tribulation, they say, why me? Why am I going through this? Why me? Like, they're so frustrated, and they become antagonistic, they become atheist. They feel like if there was really a God out there, then how come we're going through so much loss? How come people are suffering? But they don't understand that it's a balance, that this life is a test. There are lots of things that are beyond our knowledge. We wouldn't know. The things that we consider as good may not be good for us. Only the Creator knows. Only the Creator of the heavens and the earth, the Creator of the universe, knows everything better than us. So when we research on science and technology with the verses of the Quran, we get a glimpse of Allah's wisdom and mercy. But still, we won't fully understand it. So yeah, Allah knows best, and we should have more trust and faith in Allah's decision. So these are the 6 lessons that we can learn from Surah Yusuf that I wanted to share with all of you. So I hope you all have an amazing day or night whenever you're watching this, okay? So yeah, take care.